I was a
Doug, sorry.
developer, I'd be much more scared of what the audio bus forum are going to say than what the App Store review said.
See, if you can please the people on the audio bus forum, I'm pretty sure you can please.
You can please the people on
Sorry.
Maybe not.
Yeah, no, you can. You can. All they want is for their stuff to work, but it's so difficult
to work.
So many
subjective.
So many things that can go wrong, and but there are so many brilliant apps. Let's be fair, it is incredible. That's why we're all still in it, innit?
Hello and welcome everybody back to the channel. I am your host Vortex from MobileMusicPro.com, your home for mobile music production. And today's podcast is going to be a super special one because we have both app creators and app content creators on the show. And two of those app creators just had apps dropped this week, and those of course are Loopy Pro and SampleWiz 2 respectively. So if you haven't yet, definitely make sure to check out those amazing apps as they have some pretty unique features to them. Before we did get started though, I did want to quickly just thank every single one of these panelists for being on the show today. Thank you guys so much. I of course know you're all super busy around this time of year, so I just can't thank you enough for being on the show. We did only get about an hour or so of time to chat, so I think for the next episode, I'm going to have a few less guests so we can still pack in a couple of additional topics in there. But nevertheless, this episode is still super fire and packed with gems and great discussion. And so with that intro aside, happy holidays to everybody from Mobile Music Pro, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hello and welcome to the third episode of the Mobile Music Roundtable right here on the Mobile Music Pro channel. And we are super excited to bring you this episode today because we have some very esteemed guests, and I'm really excited to get to the conversation. So let's go ahead and introduce everybody one by one. We'll go right around the table there first. So first we have Mr. Doug from the Sound Test Room, probably has the longest running iOS YouTube channel to date. Doug, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks, mate.
Nice to see you, man. Really appreciate you being here. And then we got go around next. We have Mr. Patrick Bird from the GarageBand Guide YouTube channel that just crossed over 100K subs. How you doing, Patrick?
Great, Vortex. Thank you very much for having me.
Yes. So it took a bit of scheduling to get Patrick on here, but we got him on here eventually for sure. So really glad to see you today. It's going to be kind of funny, guys, because we have a bit of a app creator versus app content creator dynamic going on. So I think we're going to see that play out pretty fun. The next we have Mr. Tim Exile of the Endless app that has been super taking everybody by storm. Everybody's been loving that and collaborating, making music on that. Tim, how are you doing today?
Very well, sir. How are you?
Very well. Thank you so much for being here, man. I know everybody can probably only stay an hour, so I think that's probably what we'll try to keep this conversation to. We'll see how many topics we can get to, but it's going to be some great discussion, I believe. So then next up, we have Jordan Rudis. If you guys don't know who Jordan is, come on, guys. Keyboardist for Dream Theater, and of course has the amazing app GeoShred out there that I use all the time. How are you doing today, Jordan?
I'm doing very well. Happy to be here with all you guys. This is really cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, Jordan is actually the first guest that I secured for this episode. So we had to make sure that Jordan can get here first. Once I got his timing, then I can sort of arrange everybody else. It gets kind of difficult arranging 5 or 6 people, but really glad you could make it, Jordan.
Cool.
Awesome. And then finally, last but not least, the one and only Michael Tyson from the amazing Loopy Pro app, and of course, AudioBus and AudioBus Forum. Michael, how you doing today?
Oh, I'm feeling much better now. I get a that before my name. That's very exciting. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely, man. Come on, Michael. You got one of the most important apps in the entire ecosystem. But yes, don't be modest, Michael. Don't be modest. But yeah, man. So it's going to be a pretty good discussion today. So we have a few different topics we're going to try to get to today. The first one I've been actually speaking on for the past couple of shows, but because we do have new people every single time, we'll try to get through this a little bit faster than the other topics maybe. But because we do have new people every single time, I really am curious to see what the actual overall vibe and thought is on the iOS ecosystem, because of course, we can read, we can watch some YouTube videos, but really I love to get the discussion going from the actual people that are in the industry, that are in the community, working on this stuff every day. So first we'll go with Doug on this topic, the state of mobile music production. What are your thoughts? Because so far we've determined basically that the hardware is definitely there for the iOS ecosystem. The only thing that we're kind of working on now is more of the software stability. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's all right. Do you know what? I really don't know.
Let me ask you this, Doug. Like, are you happy with the stability maybe of the apps this year, or have they gotten more stable this year? What do you think?
Some of them are okay. Some of them are less stable than others. I really don't want to say what I think's rubbish and what I think's great.
Oh yeah, you don't have to name any names or anything. Just trying to get a general feel, to a temperature check almost of the ecosystem and how it's growing and how well it's doing versus the last couple of years.
Do you know what I think? iOS 7 was the best iOS for music. Not power wise, but stability wise. I remember working with iOS 7 all the time, and it never ever really let me down. And then since iOS 7, they try to build too much stuff into it. I don't even think it's not a developer thing. I think it's an Apple thing. I think there's too much stuff that tries to get added to the Apple ecosystem, which messes stuff up. I feel incredibly sorry for developers, actually. Every time Apple updates something breaks for a developer, and I have to then redesign something in their app, and I think that's really, really, really bad. I think CUBASIS suffered from this as well, quite a lot as well. With CUBASIS 3. And now it's like, CUBASIS is one of my favorite, probably my favorite DAW for iOS. But I guess too much stuff that has to be continually created and continually fixed is a problem. But stability wise, iOS 7 was definitely the best. Now it's less stable. Now I can't do an app and not worry that it's not going to crash or something's going to go wrong.
Very interesting, because and I'm really excited to see some of the the people that have apps here to speak on that too. But that's what I've kind of found as well, is just Apple keeps trying to pack in so much new stuff, because they have to resell this to people every single year. They come up with a new version every single year, and they don't really give the users a choice. Because you have to keep clicking not now, not upgrade. So they don't really per se give you the full choice of not wanting to upgrade, and they always have to have new stuff. So they always keep packing in just obscene and absurd amounts of stuff, to the point to where the operating system might be getting pretty bloated, as you say at this point. But that can still be relatively worked around, hopefully, if Apple plays ball with that, because we can see how, for example, bloated like desktop operating systems can get and things like that. But yet still there are some VSTs out there that are more stable than others. So great points on that, Doug. I think back in the old days it was a little bit more, maybe a little bit more stable, but now they just keep adding more and more stuff. And with iOS 9, that's when stuff really got interesting, because that's of course when we got the file system and or iPad OS. That's when we got the file system, and we can use keyboard and mouse. We can use the desktop browser. We can use external file storage. So all that came in like one single operating system. So that particular iOS version was really great, adding new stuff. But every other iOS version I found, like you said, since 7 has added just stuff that I have no idea what the end use case is for. But yeah, great. Great point.
We have more stuff now. It's just less stable.
Interesting. All right, let's go around the table. We'll go with Tim next. Tim, I know you have the Endless app out there, so of course you're going to be experiencing the development directly with Apple on a day-to-day basis. What have you found as far as the state of the mobile music production ecosystem? Has iOS gotten better or worse, and have the apps gotten more stable? And how difficult has it been for you to keep Endless as stable as it is?
With Endless, there are a lot of different factors, not least that we're interfacing in real time with a whole kind of real time replicating database.
The multiplayer aspect of it, yeah.
The whole multiplayer aspect of it, and getting, I'd say in terms of delivering and improving stability for Endless, we've probably had more battles with interfacing with the server architecture than we have actually solving problems directly arising from iOS changes in iOS. I mean, the dev team have had to work around when there's been a new version of iOS. We've had to work around a few things, but by and large, I mean, I'd say the majority, in terms of just staying on top of the stability game, the majority of our work goes into how we interface with the server. Also, I mean, we build Endless is built pretty much entirely on Juice. We've got a few UI kit components there, but I think in terms of delivering a really slick user experience, that's another area where Juice wasn't originally designed to be a mobile music audio app development toolkit. It started really for developing plugins, and then it broadened out. So you can, the core audio engine inside Juice, you can compile cross-platform in theory. I mean, obviously generally there's something you need to fix on a certain platform to get it to work. But one thing that would certainly help Endless anyway would be easier ways to integrate, Swift and UI kit into really great audio engines. That would definitely allow us to build a slicker user experience. But I mean, you can't deny it's it's an insanely powerful platform and an insanely powerful software SDK. I mean, it's very easy to hate on Apple, and I think one of the topics we're going to discuss today is the cut that they take. I don't agree with that. I think it's too much, but anyway, they do provide a great platform, and they do provide great SDKs to build for it.
Absolutely. So it does sound like it has been more stable for you over time, and that your team doesn't really spend a whole lot of time actually dealing with issues directly related to these iOS upgrades. It's more so dealing with like the actual development of the system, the architecture of the system itself. Okay, so very, very interesting. So that's definitely promising. And your thoughts, I don't know how many other music apps you use, Tim, but have you found music apps becoming more stable, or were able to notice anything like that? Or do you not use enough apps, other apps to kind of gauge that?
I don't think I use enough of the apps to give you a really solid opinion. I do from time to time dabble around, but not for long periods of time. So
for sure, yeah, and of course I have a bunch of apps, and I still don't use hardly any of them. There's just so many. I have too many reverbs. I have to cut down my reverbs. But yes, definitely understand. Okay, very cool. We're going to next go to Mr. Jordan Rudis. What are your thoughts on this topic as well? Tim is saying that the iOS updates really haven't been too bad, and that for the most part it's been pretty stable for him. I know you have a lot of apps that you've either worked on or collaborated or have yourself. So what really interested to hear, what are your thoughts on the stability and of the apps, and maybe the overall arcing state of the mobile music ecosystem?
It's an interesting thing to look at, from like a musician point of view. It kind of gets more and more fun, as people continue to put out cool stuff, and you can link different things together, and you can just do more, and the technology becomes more powerful. But what I've seen through the years is that a lot of ideas and even developers, as I was talking about in the break, they kind of like move away from the platform, because the platform becomes almost annoying, in the sense that it's really like one of the great things about starting out with the iOS world and music years ago, and some of you guys remember this, was that you were just like offering these creative ideas. You were kind of like just bringing stuff out of your head and just putting them out there. And it was like amazing. Like we were all going, whoa, that's so cool. And we were doing stuff that, still this happens. We were doing stuff that you wouldn't find like on a big hardware machine, like a Roland, a Yamaha, a Korg, whatever. I'd be looking at those keyboards, whatever, and saying, wow, but on my iPhone, I can do this, which they can't do at all. And having those ideas just come out freely was a really magical thing. And it was a magical time as well. And I find a little bit of the magic gets sucked out of it, because we still have in our world a lot of like independent developers. And it's really hard. I see that I'm not a coder, but I see how hard it is for an independent or even a couple of guys to just keep up with everything. Like you want to have your app available, for like, let's say you want to have it on an Android, and you want to have it on iOS, and you want to have it work in Audio Bus, and you want to have it work in AUM and Cubase and GarageBand. All of a sudden, what's going on? The developer's spending so much time trying to make sure that things are working smoothly in this various environments that it's hard. It's really hard. And what I see happen is, like, I'll be working on an app, with a developer, and we'll be inspired and we'll be going for it. And then, I realize, wow, we really can't put this out. Not yet, because if you open it up in GarageBand, it's not even playing. Like, so so a lot of time has to be spent making sure it works here, it works there, it does this, it does that, and so you don't get clobbered right out of the gate, and people almost like shut you down. They leave that famous 1-star review because they tried to open it up in AUM and it didn't work properly, or they couldn't see the whole screen, or it crashed, or whatever. So stuff like that, I think, makes it a little bit harder, especially these days when there's more and more connections that people expect. But again, the flip side of that is it's still one of the greatest, most creative, inspirational platforms out there for anybody who's a musician, creative person. I mean, I tell all my music friends, hey, if you want to have some serious fun in the music space, get yourself an iPad. You can be walking around with this little thing that has so much magic in it. It's unbelievable. So that's kind of my...
Let me ask you this, Jordan. Has the AUV3 standard made things any easier for you, as far as if you, for example, maybe only wanted to release an app in AUV3? Would that make it more viable for a developer to just, as far as the iOS ecosystem goes? Because there's still a lot of work to be done to make it, for example, work on iPhone and iPad. But just in general, across different DAWs and different apps, has the AUV3 standard helped out at all with that?
Well, I don't have any apps personally that just are like an AUV3 app.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that once you start like limiting things and scaling down, it does make it a lot easier and somewhat more manageable. Unfortunately, my ideas and what I always want to put out is a little deeper than that.
For sure.
So,
especially, GeoShred is a great example. The whole great experience about GeoShred is the actual playing of it, on the screen. And so inside of AUV3, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, though I still love it in AV3, of course. Don't get me wrong, because I can just use my MIDI keyboard, and hook that right up. But but the core experiences, I think you want people to experience is actually playing on the screen, right?
Yeah, I mean, GeoShred is a good example of an application that's just like so deep that there's so much to tend to, and there's so many things that can change or go wrong when something changes in the system. That makes it definitely complicated.
Yeah. And I think that's a great point to bring up, because people don't quite realize how much work it is to actually make something universal. Let's forget about Android for a second, forget about that crazy operating system for a second, and just focus on iOS. Like, if you're just trying to make your stuff work in iOS, you have the AUV3, you have the standalone, you have the iPhone and the iPad and the various different versions. And people always wonder, like, why doesn't this app work on the iPhone, or why doesn't it work both on the iPhone and the iPad? But to make things universal, as Jordan says, it is an extreme large amount of work, and that is why you do see apps come out for just the iPhone at first, or just the iPad at first, and then they expand and go universal over time, because it is a completely different set of rules, completely different set of it's a different ball game really at that point, when you're trying to make it look good on as many parts of the platform as you can, let alone trying to make it work for Android, because we all know, or if you don't know, that is definitely a difficult platform to make things work universally. Andrew Hong put out a great video on that, on why you should probably make your music app work on iOS only for now. But great points on there. Just real quick follow-up question to Tim: is Endless is that on AUV3 standard, or do you have any plans for that? Because I know that the main focus for that is standalone. But do you have any plans for AUV3, or is that not something that you guys are thinking about?
Yeah, it's on the roadmap. I'm not going to commit to any dates yet, but at some point next year, we're looking to incorporate AUV3 hosting, which I think is going to be huge, really, really huge. So I'm super excited about that. I know the Endless community are really excited about that.
I'm definitely excited about that.
Yeah, because I think we have to be realistic that Endless can't really play in the iOS music ecosystem properly until we support AUV3. But we want to do a good job of it. We don't want to just open up a plugin window. We want to create a really good experience around it. So we've got plans. They're coming down the road. Absolutely.
And so you guys can see, like, for example, if you just made a standalone app, it's still an entirely new ballgame, an entirely new set of rules, an entirely new project to make that work then in AUV3. So people, some people are like, why doesn't this AUV3 yet? Why isn't it AUV3 yet? And I'm with you, like, especially when it comes to sample take, but it takes time, guys, to really make sure that this app works well in multiple versions of itself. So if you have a favorite app that's not quite AUV3 yet, definitely give the developer time, especially if they said that that's coming. You definitely want to make sure to give that time, because this is really complicated stuff. And I just want to preface this, when we're talking about stability and making things work, it's usually not Apple's fault, as everybody has pretty much said at this point, for the most part, because there's just so much stuff to navigate. There's so many different things. And of course, it doesn't help that iOS updates every year. But when you start adding all this stuff up, that's probably some of the cause for the stability issues. But nevertheless, there are stable apps out there. And you just have to kind of pick and choose, I think, because I think everybody would agree here that there are some stable apps out there and some unstable apps out there. But let's go ahead and go to Michael next. Last but not least, Michael, we'll start with you first. The next time we go around the table. Actually, we got to start with Patrick the next time we go around the table. But Michael, I'll get your thoughts on this, because obviously you have an amazing app coming up very soon, Loopy Pro, and that I believe by default is not going to be AUV3. But we can talk about that too. But first, what are your thoughts on the overall ecosystem? Because you've been here since pretty much the beginning, creating Audio Bus. How has, in your opinion, Apple performed with their iOS? How has that been easier to use? Has it been more difficult to use? And really, what are the things that you're finding that cause the most instability in apps?
Yeah, well, first of all, it will be an AOV3 and it will be an AOV3 host. It'll be both, but moving on. It's a blessing and a curse, the state that everything is in now, because we started 10, 11, 12 years ago, and I think all of us had fairly modest ideas about, we didn't have any ideas about what music apps could do, because there weren't music apps at the time. And just, the way that we are as a global society, we want more. We want to further ideas. And so, the next year we have more ideas. And even without Apple in the mix, that's going to happen, because, you want to bring out something new and innovative every year, and that just ratchets up year on year. So yeah, and that's that's got pros and cons. It's amazing that we've got now the ability to have apps on our phones that will rival, some of the best in class desktop apps. And that's because of this sort of incremental year on year progress, but both, in our own world and also behind the scenes with Apple's work. So I'm sort of agnostic about whether it's a good or a bad thing. It definitely complicates things, but I think that's just the nature of the beast. And I think that the one thing that I would change if I could, I understand why Apple do it, but is that relentless upgrade path. I think that's it's very hard, especially if you're serious about music and you want to, if you're performing with it and suddenly your rig updates and half your apps break, that is devastatingly bad. And I always recommend to pros to have 2 of every device that they use, one that they keep stable, that they don't update, that they're very, very diligent about pressing the do not update button, and one that's, basically a test device and they keep it up to date. And once everything is working and they know it's stable, then they can sort of roll it over. But that, of course, is hard as well. Not being able to, downgrade is very difficult. And I know why Apple does that, because they're all about the security and, they want to make sure that once they patch a hole, it stays closed. But, it makes our lives hard, doesn't it?
I could not agree more with that.
It's pretty tricky.
And some people were trying to argue that, like, Apple needs to do this for security. They need to have this many security updates every single year. They need it. And I just, we got along for a while with large operating systems like Microsoft Windows and macOS not coming out for 3, 4, 5 years, and there was a reason for that, because there is this whole ecosystem of people that have the very large dependence on this kind of stuff. And if it's mission critical stuff, you have to make sure to turn off automatic updates on everything with iOS, every single thing, because everything about iOS and all the apps and everything is all about this automatic update. They want you to keep updating and all the time. So that's a very great point that, like, if you do have some mission critical apps and you don't want to buy 2 devices every single time, just to make sure you turn off all those automatic updates. But yeah, I can't tell you how much I hate clicking not upgrade now, because I actually held out for a while on my operating system. I was running iOS 13 for like a while. And the security didn't matter too much to me, because it's not even really connected to the internet. I only use it for iOS music production. And so there wasn't really, I don't even use email on it or anything like that. But it was definitely frustrating to have to click that not now all the time. And I think that affects the the customers, the end users, and the developers in very meaningful ways, in in a negative and a positive, but a lot in the negative, unfortunately. I think we can go to Patrick now. I don't believe we've called on Patrick yet for this particular discussion. You've been very, very patient, Patrick. Really curious to hear what you see, what you think, because you obviously have to test. You have to test a lot of apps on your YouTube channel. You have gone through many, many, many apps on your YouTube channel, just like Doug. And so, what are your thoughts on the sort of the state of the iOS ecosystem and some of this app stability discussion?
So you could probably fit everything that I know about app development onto the back of a stamp, to be perfectly honest. So I can only speak as pretty much 100% an end user, I would say.
Yes, that's why we have the content creators on here too, as well as the people who have apps. But yeah, man, I'm curious. What do you think?
I think the kind of state of apps in the App Store at the minute as an end user, it's kind of half Wild West and half Golden Age, really, I think. Like I can go and get like an almost flawless port of a desktop EQ from FabFilter and shove it in a project, and then similarly go and get a kind of a $5 incredibly unique reverb app from a one-man developer team that has a really incredible iOS-based interface and a bloody storyline attached to it, and have them both kind of in the same project. So to me, that's pretty amazing. I'm not sure it's the same story for developers, obviously, but as an end user, things are kind of good. Obviously, stability, yeah, it's not completely there with every single app at the moment, but to me anyway, I think things are better than they've ever been overall.
Absolutely. Yeah, great points. And I think that's what I found as well, is that, excuse me, overall, because I have to go through a lot of apps as well, just like, Patrick and Doug here as a content creator. And from what I've seen, the apps seem to be getting more stable. It seems to be getting better. It's not perfect yet, of course. But then, of course, Apple does an upgrade of an operating system, and half my freaking apps don't work again. And so that's something that you really have to, that's actually what we're going to talk about in the next discussion when it comes to pricing models, is that developers have to keep worrying about these things every single year. They have to make sure that it works, because all it takes is one, or two angry customers with a 1 star, and then all of a sudden your rating is horrible, despite the fact that you work so hard on making every single other little thing work just perfectly. And then for this one single situation, boom, 1 star, blog post, YouTube video, you're out of here. But yeah, that can get actually extremely frustrating. So I definitely feel the developers' pain on that. So hopefully Apple will maybe allow us a different upgrade path, maybe an optional upgrade path. Did you have something, Patrick?
If I was a
Doug,
developer, I'd be much more scared of what the Audio Bus Forum were going to say than what the App Store review said.
See, if you can please the people on the Audio Bus Forum, I'm pretty sure you can please.
You can please the people
Sorry.
Maybe not.
No, you can. All they want is for their stuff to work, but it's so difficult
to work.
So many
subjective.
So many things that can go wrong, and but there are so many brilliant apps. Let's be fair. It is incredible. That's why we're all still in it, isn't it? But,
absolutely.
If it was really crappy, we wouldn't, be bothering, but, we're still there, we still love it. But I'd be scared to death if something crashed in the Audio Bus Forum and got on my case. Seriously.
All it needs to be is all it needs to have is a bug in GarageBand and only AV3 format, and only under this one circumstance, and boom.
That's right, guys. I know a guy who runs that.
The latest.
I know a guy. He can just shut that down if you need to.
The latest. The IK multimedia thing that went wrong with their upgrade system. Oh, it was brutal on the forum. Brutal.
Absolutely. And that goes right into the next topic too that we can talk about.
I'll tell you what, though, they got it fixed pretty darn quick.
I thought it was pretty fast, but it wasn't fast enough for some people. Literally calling theft. It was good.
No. You see, the thing is, if you listen to what IK said, really, it wasn't really their fault. It was a problem really with the Apple system, but.
Absolutely. And that definitely happens every once in a while too. So, but let's actually take this and go into the next topic, because that really is directly related to this, which is basically pricing models. Allowing these developers to be able to have the resources to fix some of this crazy stuff that that Apple keeps throwing at them. And so we'll go around the other way table this time. We'll start with Patrick this time on this topic. But What are your thoughts on some of the pricing models? Because we've had some interesting developments recently with, for example, IK Multimedia's app going free, and then having an in-app purchase, and then also another app. What was the other app? I have it. Animu Z. So that just came out and is now free, and now has an in-app purchase. And in addition to the in-app purchase, it now has sample or expansion packs, sound packs that you can buy, which I think is a great way to be able to support an app. So, what are your thoughts on maybe some of these pricing models? Maybe what do you hate? What are some pricing models that you hate? And do you have any thoughts on how we can sort of make it more even make it more even playing field for developers, so they can just have some kind of model that they can know works and rely on that?
I don't know if I'm quite old school. I like to just kind of buy an app and have the app, really. I know some other larger kind of synth apps like SynthMaster, for example, you pay your initial purchase and then you have the option of other sample packs that are well worth your time in there as well. Not a massive, kind of all the controversy aside with Mixbox, I'm not a big fan of them having an initial one pricing model and then changing that pricing model. That is quite confusing for people, I think. It's hard to say, really. It's hard to say. I would rather just pay for something and have it, but obviously you have to consider that developers would rather have, I imagine, some ongoing form of income, which is, what that kind of model helps.
Do you prefer to pay for the app, or would you like to have a free app, have it be free, and then have an in-app purchase to unlock all the features? Like, what are your thoughts on that? What's your preference on that?
Either's fine. Obviously, there's decent apps that have both of those models. Either's fine, but as long as you just stick to it. I wouldn't want to. I can see why there was a massive knee-jerk reaction, going back to Mixbox again, where put a big outlay of money out there and then suddenly IK Multimedia taken away. Obviously, that wasn't the case, but that confusion could have been avoided, I think, if it was just a case of you pick a pricing model and you stick to it.
Yeah, it was a bit unfortunate that caused so much controversy, because they made the app free. It should have been a win. Right, it should have been a win-win-win-win-win situation, but unfortunately there was some bugs there that upset some people. But I think we have to continue to explore new models, right? The businesses have to continue to explore new models, because large initial big prices up front, like $30, $40, $50, that definitely makes people do a double take, as opposed to it being free or super cheap. So
it shouldn't. No, I don't. I think we need to get to a point where desktop price, personally, again, end user, where desktop prices, especially where apps are both on desktop and on iOS, instead of having a massively expensive desktop price and a $5 iOS price, maybe meet somewhere in the middle. I don't know if that would be like a feasible kind of future for app pricing, but certainly I wouldn't mind paying more for some of the iOS apps that I've paid like $3 for Black Friday.
We're talking to you, Blease. Double your prices. Every single app, double them, please, because your apps are amazing. All right, let's go to Michael next on this. Michael, I'm really curious about your thoughts, because you are recently, about to release a new app, and you are kind of trying to figure out and navigate this crazy path of a sustainable pricing model. And I know you've probably looked at every single one by now. So what are your thoughts so far on some of the pricing models? And what are your thoughts on the most you think, believe would be sustainable pricing models? Because we had Wojita have an interesting pricing model as well, where they make you pay once, but you only get updates, free updates and features for a year. And then they release a new version. And then in order to get all that new stuff, you have to pay again. And some people are okay with that. Personally, I'm completely okay with that, because that keeps the developers going. But what are your thoughts on some of the possible maybe pricing models that you can speak about for Loopy? Or if you can't, then maybe just what are your thoughts on trying to get some of these more sustainable pricing models out there?
Yeah, you said, we need to explore new models, but we also need to explore old models. The desktop model has been decades around, and I think it works quite well. Where you buy an app, you own it, and you can use it for as long as you like. And if you decide you want to upgrade it, then you upgrade it. And if you don't want to, you don't have to. That's something that has been really difficult on iOS since the beginning, and we've asked for upgrade pricing for a long time, but it's kind of feasible now, in a way, with a little bit of extra work. And that's what I'm doing with Loopy. So the idea is, it's a bit like what you just described. So you buy the app, you keep it forever. So it's a free download, 7-day trial, buy it with an in-app purchase, you own it forever. And you get updates for a year. And then if you can keep on using it like that, you keep it forever. And then, if in 2 years there's something amazing, you upgrade, and it costs you half the price that you bought it originally for. and you get, all the updates at that point, and then another 12 months of updates from that point. So it's kind of like upgrade pricing, but I think
that is what a desktop
is,
model uses. That is what desktops use, is that model. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, pretty much. It's basically the same thing. Yeah. And it's, I think pricing models is something that is almost universally done poorly on iOS. It's it's very easy just to go with what's done, which is, at least in the music world, is to have just a one-off purchase. But as we've said, it's not sustainable. You can't just have everyone pay once and then never again, and then get free updates for the rest of the app's life. That unless you've been lucky enough to get a continual churn of new users, which I think is hard to get happening, the inevitable result is abandonware. It just doesn't reflect how it works.
That's just kind of how it works. People see something, and then there's a tail at the end as time moves on, and people forget.
Yeah, and it atrophies down. But the users are still there, and they're still using it, and they might still love it. But if the money's not there, it makes it really hard to do. So, Apple tried to solve that with subscriptions, which I think probably a lot of people will agree feels quite unfair, that you basically are renting. And if you ever decide to stop renting, you lose access. All the money that you paid is worth nothing, and the app is gone, which I don't like. So hence, playing with these new models that let you keep what you've paid for, which just seems the only way to go. I think we're going to see more and more apps using these models that kind of achieve both of the goals of sustainability and feeling fair. I think that's inevitable.
What are your thoughts about that same pricing model, but having it be free and have an in-app purchase? It's the same thing where you purchase it only good for a year whenever you purchase it, but then you'll have release a new version that they can then purchase. But having a free version in there with an in-app purchase, what are your thoughts on that? Do you have any what are most people saying, do you think, and what are your personal thoughts on that? Because personally, for me, I really like that model because it's the most accessible, because everybody can download it, and then if you really want it, you can purchase it, and then they can release a new version the next year, and you can have to repurchase that at a discounted price.
Yeah, I guess the devil is in the details. It depends what the app is like before you buy it. It depends what the app is like after the year expires. It could be great, it could be terrible. It all depends on how it works. But something that just bothers me personally is, and this is why I considered but dismissed the option of doing this in Loopy Pro, which is to have an app that has a baseline, and then you can add modules to it with in-app purchases, and you just add more in-app purchases down the line as you add new features. And that might work fine for some, but I personally find that very intrusive, that you come across something and then you've got to go through this process again. And and having to kind of go, do I need that? Do I need that for that project? Is it really worth it? Having all of these little decisions, because we know that making decisions saps our brain power and our creativity. And so I quite like the idea of having something monolithic that is just one thing you buy and everything works, and you can forget about it after that.
So it does sound like it's a double-edged sword, making something free, right? You think, oh, I'll make it free, more people will download it, but it all depends on what you actually give away for free, and then what costs, and the additional friction that you mentioned there of having to make an additional decision, and then now if you do want it, then you have to actually click purchase again, and if you have to do that too many times, that is even more friction that you could turn off the whole customer. So so that's great points on that. It sounds like that you're going to go with pretty much the desktop model, and that seems completely logical to me. So let's move on to Jordan on your thoughts on this, because of course you have a couple apps out there. What are your thoughts on the pricing models as it is today? Do you think they can be improved, and what is your thoughts on the discussion so far about the models we discussed?
It's Michael, it was so interesting to hear your perspective about this and how you want to do it. It's so different for every app, because a lot of it does depend on what are you offering at first, and what are the other things that you're planning to put out. And the other thing that we started to bring up was the whole subscription idea. And in the music space, everybody is pretty much like, I see it, everybody's against it. They get like, oh my God, you can't do that to me. Like,
that's what I've found. Yeah.
But if you go into photo apps and video and all that kind of stuff, everything is subscription based. Matter of fact, I work pretty closely with a company called Lightricks that's based out of Israel, and they have a really, really big business. that only exists because they decided to add subscriptions. If it wasn't for that, they would not have what they have.
Interesting.
I mean, it's an enormous difference. They went from just like a small company doing a few nice little things. They started to do subscriptions, and now they have a big company, and it's a huge deal. So you can see how that works, and you go, well, wow, like, we gotta have subscriptions in the music space so we can expand. The only way that works, though, and like Michael, you were saying that if you offer that and people start to pay for it, and then all of a sudden you stop and everything is gone, that sucks. That's like horrible, right? From the other point of view, the subscription thing can kind of work, and I have some subscriptions in the visual space with my apps, is if you know that company is going to keep on kind of like feeding you. Like, I've got an app called Hyperspective, which is a very cool visual app. And every month or so, they give me, a couple of new filters that are really cool, and I play with them, and I feel like, oh, wow, this is great. I'm so glad I subscribed to this, because they're, feeding my habit, if you will, of needing to play with cool visuals and cool sounds. In the music space, it would work if I had an app, and every month they said, okay, well, here's a new multi-tap delay, and and this month they're coming out and they gave you a whole bank of orchestral sounds, or so. That could kind of work. With my apps, with GeoShred, we have some different versions of GeoShred, and they're all a little bit different. GeoShred Pro is like $24.99. So that has in the iOS world, that's kind of I guess a bigger price. Although from another perspective, it's like, wow, $25, you get that. It's like,
from a desktop perspective, it's
like ridiculous.
It's pennies,
yeah, right. It's like giving away the shop. But in the iOS world, it's people say, oh, that's an expensive app. It's kind of like all ridiculous. But then, the way that we support ourselves and keep things going is we've been developing these in-app purchases of new sounds, new physical models. And they're substantial. They're like, if somebody wants to add those instruments to their GeoShred arsenal, they're adding a lot. And so it's been successful to keep customers interested, to keep them coming in, and to keep revenue coming into the organization. GeoShred also has an application that's called GeoShred Play. So GeoShred Play is an app actually that we have released at different points, and throughout the year, holidays, whatever special occasions, we'll make it free. Because it's an app that doesn't have MIDI, there's no editing, there's a lot of things. You can basically just play the sounds, and that's what it is. And we feel like, what? I think all of us kind of have this feeling as a consumer and also as a developer that we want to let people see the magic that we've created. We want you to be part of it. The beauty of being a musician is that, yes, I have to feed the family, but I want people to hear my music. If it was up to me, I'd probably just give all my music away for free, and like everybody would starve. But, I don't want to starve. So we have to have some way to do this. Yes. So again, like when special occasions come around, I'm like, yeah, let's give it away for free. And that happens. And then we try to make that work. We try to, we'll do a little extra marketing. We'll say, okay, you have it for free, but these are all the other cool things you can do with it, and to get people to help us keep on developing, software. I just put out an application that actually is a kind of a performance music visualizer. It's called Rhythm, like rhythm, but with a V. And it's pretty cool. And we decided that we would release that for free. So it's a free download, but then all the modules cost like $2 for each module. So if you want to like play with mandala, so you can play with a basic mandala shape and do some things. But if you want to open it up and have access to the whole mandala world, you have to pay. If you want to have access to the fluids world, beyond the one example we give you, you have to pay. So that's our way in that case of, making sure that we can sustain and
has that been relatively successful for you? That particular model?
It's starting to pick up, actually. I'd say it's still in the experimental phase to see. But that avenue, creating like something that's not a music app per se, but more visual app, is new for me. But it's something that I'm passionate about and interested. So that's why I'm kind of playing around with that. But it's always so hard. It's always so hard to price these things, because I think years ago when we started this thing out 12 years ago, we kind of like shot ourselves in the foot, if you will, right from the beginning by saying, okay, here's our amazing app, and it's, $3. Like, oh my God, look at what we did. Because then, the desktop app is $200, and the iOS app that blows it away is $3. So what are you supposed to do? It's like a ridiculous situation, and we're still fighting against that. It's a constant fight for all of us to kind of like stay alive and work and have companies. Like, a lot of our companies can't afford to hire another person just because we can't bring in enough funds to like do it, which is, that's kind of sad. So the pricing thing, we're always, we're all playing with it. We're always trying to figure it out, how to sustain, how to have it make sense. And, from a consumer point of view, we want to have it for free. Of course, we want music for free. We want apps for free. We want everything for free. But it just doesn't allow for, for creativity and continuation of development.
Yeah, and of course, it really depends on the app as well, very specifically, because if it's a DAW, well, then that's a whole different kind of a thing than, like, for example, a Reverb app, right? And so I think that that's really an important thing to keep part of the conversation. Like you said, you have different apps, and it's what's really an interesting point that you pointed out that I didn't really, I think, realize is that if for some reason in the photo video world, everybody loves subscriptions.
Everybody's okay with it. You expect it.
But yeah, you at this point you expect it, but now, but with the music world, whoa, they shut that down real quick, right. And that is just really interesting because they're both creative people, they're both creative industries, they both do incredible things, but just completely different mindset with how they want to actually consume their apps. And so it does sound like so far that the in-app purchases has been relatively successful as a business model when it comes to having the app be sustainable. I just have to really commend the Animoog on their app, making it free, but then having an in-app purchase for all the rest of the features, and then also having additional sound packs that they release over time so that can make the app sustainable. And I really hope that we can figure out how to do something like that, because the goal, of course, is to balance the accessibility with the pricing and making it sustainable. So we do want to try to do that. But if I got to pay all the way up front right away, then that's pretty much like an in-app purchase, right? So I think people are okay with that as well, as long as what you get is going to be fair. And so, yeah. But it does sound like you guys are still experimenting with this, but in-app purchases is definitely working better than just making it super, super cheap, I think. So right. Very interesting. I want to hear from Tim.
The other thing I just want to say really quick is that it's different for all of us, because some people putting out apps are big companies and some are like one guy. And so, like for Mob to make their financial decisions, it's a completely different type of decision than it is for me. So
and that's a great point, because most apps, people might not know this, but most apps are one-man development teams.
Right.
And it's crazy that they can do this. I mean, it's pure magic that they're doing. And I mean, you look at Bleece, you look at FAC. These are just one-man development teams, and the quality that you find in these apps can rival, of course, companies with 30, 40, 50 people employees on the desktop. So very, very great point on that, Jordan. I really want to hear from Tim on this, because you guys have the Endless app, and I believe that is free by default. And I think you just made it free. So, oh man, I really want to hear from this on Tim. So, because Tim really recently made his app free, and so I really want to hear about some of the pricing models that you guys have been exploring for your app, because it's a little bit different. It's a multiplayer app, so it's not just meant for just by yourself. So the dynamics are a lot different on that. So what are your thoughts on the discussion so far about these pricing models, and what are you going to be doing, you think, for Endless?
Well, I mean, Endless has always been it's a fairly different proposition from, because you can use it as a DAW. I mean, you can't really arrange in it, but you can generate ideas. So it works as a scratch pad. It works solo. It works as a kind of collaborative tool. But really, it's at its best when it's kind of like a game, really. I mean, the really core hardcore Endless community, the people who are on there for like a few hours a day and who basically, their musical lives now play out on Endless. It is like a game, but it's like a sort of almost like a venue where people come to be together and create together. So it's a very different proposition. We've tried a few different models. When we launched the iOS app, it was freemium, so there was a whole bunch of stuff that was free forever, and then we had a kind of like content bolt-on subscription, which was $4.49 a month, which gave you extra sound packs, and we added another 2 of those sound packs per month. And it sort of made sense because Endless is a service. It's not just a piece of software that we kind of upgrade over time. It's also actually a server infrastructure and multiplayer service. And then with the desktop app, we launched that as a buy to own. So that was list price was like $199, but we basically had a 50% off offer, which lasted right up until Tuesday. And on Tuesday we're making Endless free forever for everyone. So everything on Endless is going to be free on the mobile app, all the content, all the sound packs, everything on the desktop app, and then as we roll out features like plugin hosting, the whole thing is going to be free. But we're working towards building a marketplace, basically, so a creative marketplace that's going to have a model. I mean, it's more like play to earn games like Axie Infinity, where you breed and trade these characters, and those characters are their own kind of digital assets that are immutable and persist outside the ecosystem, and they're tradable, etc. So this is the model that we're moving. I'm pretty sure that we're the first music creation platform to be adopting this new model. So it's but it feels right. It feels really right for what we're doing.
That is definitely some trailblazing. There's definitely no other platforms that are going to incorporate digital assets, I believe, other music apps that are incorporating digital assets just yet, for sure. So that would definitely be one of the first. So if you could just maybe explain that a little bit one more time, like the pricing model that you guys are going with now, because everything is free, but you said you're going to make a percentage off the digital assets that people create and sell within the app.
So within the app, so what it's going to work, what we're going to launch in April is going to be, a marketplace basically. So you can set up a jam with a bunch of friends. You just decide when you set that jam up, what everyone's splits are going to be. I think off the bat, we'll just make it equal split. So let's say all 6 of us could be in a jam together, and we'd all get an equal split of anything that was sold from anything we created in that jam. And then Endless will get a 10% tool maker. So it's like basically Endless is a collaborator in the creative process.
Very interesting.
I think it really suits what Endless is. And I don't think there are that many music creation platforms or tools or services out there that necessarily would make sense for, because essentially, when we started building Endless, that the whole idea was that it would evolve into just a place to come and be musical, to discover music, to create music, to share music, to collaborate on music, to remix, or just to sit back and kind of like consume. So it's really, what we're building towards is an end-to-end creation platform, and also, we're going to be issuing a token, so it means that the organization that runs this is going to be owned by the community as well. So I'm super excited about where this is going. It feels right. It really aligns us with the community. It means that we can make the tools free for everyone forever, so the Endless tool becomes a public good. So long as there's enough uptake of people using the marketplace, that we do generate enough revenue to keep the tool free. But I'm pretty confident that that's going to pan out.
Yeah, so you're actually building a whole marketplace within the actual app, which is very, very interesting. Of course, it's a whole marketplace and platform. So it's a little bit different than, of course, your average DAW or synthesizer app. But the detail that you guys are going into is going to be pretty interesting when you're talking about automatically getting revenue from the stuff that you added into that specific track. That is pretty cool. Creating additional assets, and of course, then the token. So very, very interesting stuff. This is kind of real. I think, Tim, this is a real insight into the future of how apps can possibly be sustainable. You're going to essentially have to create platforms, and that's kind of what I meant with having additional sound sets, like Jordan was talking about, and having additional sound sets every week or every month that people can continue to purchase to keep them both interested, and then make the app itself sustainable. So that is seeming to be kind of where it's at. And same with Michael with Loopy Pro. He plans on making that a platform, continuously adding features for years and years to come. Though it's of course a completely different pricing model, but they're both designed to make the app sustainable, and that's what's really, really important. Because so far in the ecosystem, or the history of the iOS ecosystem, apps really haven't been, quote, sustainable unless you're maybe releasing them all the time, or are a large company and can release to a really large audience. So this is very interesting, the whole platform route, and trying to keep people coming back for more. So very, very cool stuff. But Doug, what are your thoughts on the discussion so far on all of these different pricing models? What would you rather pay, and what have you experienced with so far with apps coming out? Because you review so many apps. What is the average pricing model that you think is doing well?
I'll give you a quick my thoughts quickly. Okay, so I don't think subscription models work on iOS. I don't think they're popular. I think they're more popular on the desktop, but I don't think they're so popular on mobile. I think that the mistake was at the very beginning of the apps, that they were so cheap. I think Jordan really nailed it when he said, they wrecked it at the very beginning by charging $299 when the desktop version was $200.
$199.
Right? Yeah, but when Animogue first came out, I paid 69 pence, 69 UKP. That's 99 cents.
Yep.
I mean, and it ended
ridiculous.
Up yeah. But the thing is, now every time someone brings an app out, it's more than $4.99. It's like, oh, it's too expensive. And it's not really, because everyone needs to make money.
And it's also the price of a cup of coffee. I mean, let's be fair here.
Exactly. But the thing is, you see, this is the thing I try and point out in videos and stuff is, we say it's only the price of a cup of coffee. But if I'm reviewing 14 apps a week and everybody's buying that app, they're skint. Within a month, they've got no money left because they've spent it all on apps. So I think the thing is, apps should be more expensive. Really, to be fair, they really should be more expensive than they are. And I think that people should be more careful about what they buy. I think half the problem is people see an app and they go, I'm going to buy that. And then they don't learn to use it. And then they complain about it, because they just don't know how to use it properly, or they've used it for all the wrong reasons, but they like the look of it. And it's it's only $3.99. I've took it. And then, people should be more fussy. And I think certainly the idea behind what I do is so that people can get an idea whether they like the app, or whether it's worth the purchase, or where they can use it in their workflow and stuff like that. Someone said to me ages ago, you're way too enthusiastic, you are. You love every app you do. And I'm like, well, yeah, because I'm not going to review something I don't like.
Exactly.
But that doesn't mean that you have to like it. You can make a decision, and if you want it, you can buy it. If you don't want it, you don't have to buy it. And then they'll go, oh, it's only $3.99. But I said, well, if you've been saying that every day for a month, you've spent an awful lot of money on stuff that you might not ever use. I think pricing models should be more expensive. I do think in-app purchases are a good idea. I think that's a great way to help the developer carry on making money, because you've got to, ain't you? Because we are seeing now some lovely apps that appear to now be abandonware, and some of them are just disappearing from the App Store, which is a real shame, because some of these apps are absolutely fantastic, but because there's no real way to generate any real revenue for their app anymore, the poor developer, probably literally poor, can't do it no more. And it's just, and of course with the constant it's a vicious circle, isn't it, with the constant update system that's forced on developers to completely kind of change stuff in their app to make it continually work. I think it's really difficult. So there has to be some way for developers to continually make money. I think in-app purchases are good at the moment. I think what Michael said he's going to try and do with Loopy Pro is genius. If you can do what the desktop people do and have an upgrade system, you're golden, man. because people will upgrade. They will, and it's been going on a desktop forever. You use Reason, Cubase. You don't get everything for free forever. I think, was it FL Studio does that? Are they the only ones that still do that? You buy it once, you get all your updates for life for nothing. But really, they sell a lot of in-app stuff as well. But I think that you've got to have a source of income, and of course you've got to. But I think when an app comes along and it says it's a subscription app, so you subscribe to an app and it's like an EQ, and you're like, well, you're not going to subscribe to an EQ, but you don't. But there are people have tried to do that. You're not going to subscribe. There has to be something substantive added.
They offer a different band every month.
yeah. Well, I'm up to I've got a 500 band EQ now. I'm well happy.
It has to make
with something like that. There is no point. You might as well just sell the app, and maybe, I don't know, do an in-app purchase for an extra band. But you can't, can you? You can't like subscribe like something like that. But if you're offering something every month, like Groovebox or Launchpad, they have a subscription service, which is you can buy and or subscribe. It's up to you what you do. But at the end of the day, I think you have to at some point own the product and then offer something extra to, I think the subscriptions, certainly for iOS apps, nah. It will never be accepted by the community. And when I say the community, the Audio Bus Forum will come down on it like a ton of bricks. They will not be happy with subscriptions. They're not.
They will not be content with subscriptions. Absolutely. And that's a great point that you brought up.
And rightly so as well. If you want a metronome to know how the iOS community is going, go to the Audio Bus Forum and read it every day. I do. I've been on there since 2013.
That's a great point. Shout out to the Audio Bus Forum. Please don't hate us, but
it's the only place.
We love you,
especially what's happened to poor Tim. I mean, we should say, God, wherever you are, Tim, if you ever watch this, God bless you, mate. We'll miss you.
Absolutely.
Discord.
But just great points though on that, Doug. Like the model has to fit the app, and so of course we don't want a subscription model on an EQ. That's why I was really thinking that for when it comes to DAWs, for example, like DAWs, they should stick to just that one big huge price point right up front, and then charge for a new version, maybe a little bit discount.
If that's doable, charging for the upgrade. That's perfect, isn't it? That's
especially if you get a discount.
That's the dream for developers if they can do that.
Yeah, especially if you get a discount.
For in-app purchases is another good thing as well. My only issue with it is that apps should have been priced a lot higher, a lot longer.
Yep.
Many more years ago.
That's another great point, because that really set the precedent for the next 10 years. I mean, the App Store set the precedent. Literally, people don't understand how powerful momentum is when it comes to economics and marketplace.
It's as hard to market an iOS app as it is a desktop app. It's as hard to sell one. It's as hard to make one. It's exactly the same thing. Although, to be fair, you probably sell a lot more. Some apps, I think, are too expensive. I think sometimes if you're going to try and charge £99 or $99 for an app on iOS, that's a bit much. I think sometimes if an app is too expensive, I think sometimes that by knocking some money off, they'll sell a lot more than they would if it was way too expensive. Do you know what I mean?
And of course, there's sales too. There's sales every year that people look forward to as well.
Of course. Hey,
there's also something. Sorry, Doug. There's also something interesting about elasticity in the App Store. I've done some pricing with Loopy HD over the years, just a few little tweaks, and it's the same every time. You price it more, less people buy it. Price it less, more people buy it. It doesn't work for everything, but it is fascinating to play with it and just see how those dynamics work.
Very interesting.
And it always ends up the same.
Yeah.
The actual amount that you make always ends up.
The amount you make is the same. Yeah. More expensive, less people buy it. Right. Less expensive.
But less support load if you price it more.
What?
Less support load if you price it more.
Less support. Yeah, less support load. And again, like the large pricing, that makes sense for certain apps, specifically DAWs. Like I would pay $100, for CUBASIS. I would definitely pay $100 for CUBASIS when the cheapest desktop version is $300. So, but yeah, definitely great points, Doug. All right, so it does look like everybody does have to get going right now. So hopefully we can get to more topics on the next episode as well. We're going to try to release these every single month. But right now, let's go ahead and do the outro and say goodbye to everybody. Doug, first, we'll go with you. Where can we find out more about you, sir?
The Sound Test Room YouTube channel. That's it, isn't it? Yeah.
That's it. That's all you need. If you want to know about Doug, keep up everything he's doing. Sound Test Room YouTube channel.
Thanks for having us on, B. Nice one, matey.
Absolutely, Doug. Thanks so much, man, for being here. All right, let's say goodbye to Tim, Mr. Tim Exile and Endless. Where can we find out more about you, and maybe plug anything that you want about Endless?
Yeah, just head to endless.fm. That's Endless with 3 S's. And yeah, go and grab the apps. They're completely free. They will be free for as long as we can keep them free. Yeah, watch out for new developments. We've got a whole bunch of features coming. We're working towards AUV3 hosting support and a bunch of other stuff. So and of course this marketplace is going to be coming in the new year. So yeah, watch out at endless with 3 S's.fm.
And a fantastic
and thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir, Tim.
Great to see you all.
Just a fantastic app, man, with Endless. Just thank you so much for that app. Like the amount of collaboration that you've put into the world is really great. Bringing collaboration back to music production when most of the time we're just kind of sitting in front of the screen alone in our dark studios. Bringing that kind of collaboration back, because like you say, in the manifesto, like that's pretty much how music used to be. That's how music used to be made, and before the whole huge media conglomerate business started coming along and having these huge productions. So fantastic work on that, guys. You have to check out endless.fm. Have to check it out. It is super fun, and now it's completely free, so you got no excuse. There's no excuse. All right, Jordan, where can we find out more about you, sir? Mr. Jordan Rudis.
Yeah, first of all, let me just say that it's awesome hanging out with all you very inspirational people. So glad you all could make it. So if you want to find me, of course, jordanrudis.com is a good place to go, because that'll link you everywhere. And then you can also go to dreamtheater.com as well. And if you want to check out my latest handiwork in the app world, well, certainly GeoShred's been the kind of biggest platform that I've released over the years. We've got some really, really great, beautiful, expressive new sounds and in-app purchase bundle of cool physical models that we put out. In a few days, SampleWiz 2 is coming out. I'm not sure when you're airing this, but probably around the time that this is aired, that'll be out. And that's a Bliss app, actually. We work with that team, and excited about that. And yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome, Jordan, man. Thank you so much for being here. You have so much stuff coming out, man. It's getting hard to keep track of it all. So definitely make sure you guys visit the website. I'm really looking forward to the SampleWiz 2. That sounds very, very interesting. And of course, always new stuff in GeoShred, new sounds. The physical modeling with audio modeling is absolutely unreal. I had to give that an award this year in my top 5 instruments for 2021. We had to give it to audio modeling, the stuff that they released for alone, standalone, and within GeoShred. Just historic stuff, unprecedented stuff, amazing stuff. You guys will not believe it that it is modeled. Once you hear it, you'll actually think it's real. Just fantastic stuff. So thank you so much for help bringing that into the world, Jordan. Like that is when I'm playing with that violin, man. It's unreal, amazing stuff. So amazing stuff. All right, Mr. Michael Tyson of Loopy Pro. Got Loopy Pro coming out soon. Where can we find out more about you, sir?
Yes, well, by the time this airs, it'll probably be on the App Store after 7 years in the making. So go buy it. Yes. Yeah, loopypro.com. Find out more there. I'm a Tasty Pixel on all of the socials. A Tasty Pixel, so you'll find me there too.
Absolutely, still one of my favorite screen names there. A Tasty Pixel. I'm a bit of a graphic designer too at heart in another world, so that kind of definitely tickles my fancy a little bit there. A Tasty Pixel, very, very cool, awesome stuff, man. Thank you so much, Michael, for joining us, and hopefully,
thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, man, and to the best of luck on the launch of Loopy Pro. I know that thing is going to hit. People are going to love it because all the videos so far, very, very interesting, an amazing platform you guys got to check out. So
thank you.
Yes, sir. All right. And then finally, Mr. Patrick Bird. Still, I got to say it one more time, man. Just hitting 100,000 subs. Just a crazy milestone, guys. Make sure you're following Mr. Patrick Bird. Where can we find out more about you, sir?
Thanks for having me, and it's been great hanging out. You can find me at the garagebandguide.com or GarageBand Guide on YouTube.
Absolutely. Make sure you check out his channel. Make sure you check out the videos. And there's a lot of stuff that's not just in GarageBand too. That he has a lot of app reviews. So basically, just keeping a pulse on the whole iOS ecosystem is what his channel does. So make sure you check that out. So thanks again, Patrick, so much for being here, and thank you guys all for being here. Until next time, everybody, keep talking music, and we'll see you guys later. Bye bye. Hey everybody, Vortex here, and if you're not aware yet, we now have over 100 fully edited mobile music tutorial videos. And we make music every single Wednesday live on our channel right inside of CUBASIS on our iPad. Plus, we also have a bunch of free sample packs, guides, and more at our website at MobileMusicPro.com/free. And so if you are into that sort of thing, producing music on your iPhone or iPad, then definitely make sure to subscribe and check out the rest of the videos on the channel that we know you'll love.